Over the past couple of weeks, I've been trying to push Claude Cowork to its limits, seeing just how much of my life I can automate with this one app. And I finally have down a automation system using Cowork that anyone can easily replicate. I call it Cowork OS. Just to show you some examples, right now I have Claude Cowork automatically triaging my email inbox every single morning for me and drafting replies for all my emails. It also does research for me every day. So when I wake up in the morning, I have a report about all the trending topics that I may want to make videos about for my YouTube channel. I also have it tracking personal parts of my life, like my workouts and what I've been eating. And it even built out this entire task management system for me. And the reason this system works so well is because of the folder structure that I set up for it. If you didn't know this, every time you use Claude Cowork, you have the option of selecting a folder that you want to work inside of that is on your computer. So unlike a lot of other AI chatbots where everything's on the cloud, this uses the folders and files that are on your computer. Now, most people are just going to point Cowork to a folder they already have on their computer. But if you just spend a little bit of time upfront structuring out your folder system, you're going to get much better results. Here's an example. I created a parent folder called Cowork OS. This is what I'm going to put all of my Cowork folders inside of. Opening this up, you'll notice all of these subfolders right here. Each of these subfolders are basically a new project area. They each have their own custom set of instructions and even their own personality as well. That way, whenever Cowork works inside one of these folders, it knows exactly what to do without having to ask a lot of questions and has access to all the files it needs to be able to do the work you give it. And this is the first component of my Cowork OS system, this folder hierarchy structure. And in a minute, I'm going to show you how you can get Cowork to actually build this out for you automatically. The second and third components of Cowork OS are found directly inside the app. Now, if you didn't know this already, Cowork itself is only available on the desktop version of Claude. So it's not going to work on your smartphone and it's not going to work on the web. So make sure you download the desktop app. It's available for both Windows and Mac. And then once inside of it, click on the left here where it says Customize. Inside of here, you'll see three different things: skills, connectors, and plugins. Even though it's second on the list, let's start with connectors because I think it's a little bit easier to understand. These allow Claude to talk to third-party apps and data sources that you already use, so it can pull real-time information from them instead of guessing. You'll see I already have several of them added here, but if you click on this plus icon and click on Browse Connectors, and then click on All, you'll be able to see all the different apps that Claude can connect to. And what I suggest you do is spend a few minutes up front connecting all the apps that you already use. Maybe that's Gmail, Notion, Google Calendar, Canva. The more of these you add, the more powerful Claude Cowork is going to become. Once you've done that, you'll see all the apps that you have connected over here and all the permissions that they have as well. So those are connectors, the second component of Cowork OS. But let's move on to the third component, which are skills. You can access those by clicking right here on the left where it says skills. Now, skills may sound abstract, like what exactly are skills? But they're actually very simple. It's just a set of instructions for Claude to follow every time you want it to do the same type of task again. For instance, just to show you, here I'll open up this one called Content Research, and you can see this is literally just plain text describing in English exactly what you want Claude to do every time you tell it to do content research. So it's nothing terribly abstract, it's just a set of instructions. Once Claude has one of these skills inside of its brain, you can just tell it, hey, do content research, and it's going to follow this guide to know exactly how you want your content research done. Sometimes it's not super apparent what skills you should enable up front, but you can easily add or create them later once you realize what you're actually going to use Cowork for. So we're not going to add any in the moment because instead we are going to look at plugins. Now, plugins are essentially just a bundle of different skills and connectors that are all related. Clicking right here where it says Add Plugin, you can click on Browse Plugins and see several that Anthropic, the creator of Claude, has made available to you for free. So for instance, scrolling down, you can find one right here that's called Customer Support. So instead of you having to go out and create a bunch of skills or find a bunch of skills to help you with customer support, you can just install this one plugin and it's going to come with all of these skills enabled automatically. So let's actually install one of these plugins. I'll navigate back, and the plugin that I suggest you add is right here. It's called Productivity. Click on Install, and just like that, it is now added. So closing this out, you'll notice that over here on the left, under Personal Plugins, it now says Productivity. Clicking on that, it will expand the menu, and you can see everything that was included inside of that plugin. So first we have something called commands. These just act as a way to initialize the productivity system. Then we have connectors. These are all the suggested connectors that it's suggested that you use with this plugin, but they're not necessary at all. So if in here you see any tools that you use, like maybe Notion or Asana, you can go ahead and install them to get the most out of using this plugin. But if you don't use something, like I don't use Microsoft 365, that's okay. You don't have to add it. And then finally, we have those bundled skills I was talking about before. In this case, you can see that this plugin comes with two different skills, memory management and task management. And you can read here exactly what these do. Now, if this still feels a little bit too abstract to you, don't worry, because in a few minutes, I'm going to show you how to use the productivity plugin. And once you see it actually being used, it's going to make a lot more sense how this works. Now, like I mentioned before, the first component of Cowork OS is the folder hierarchy system. So we are actually going to build out that folder system right now. But to make this as easy as possible, I created a plugin for you that is actually going to build out the entire system with minimal work on your part. To get started with this, you'll need to install my plugin. Click right here where it says plus next to personal plugins and click on upload plugin. Now at the first link in the description down below will be a link where you can download this plugin. It should be a zip file that you can then put on your computer. From there, you just want to locate the zip file and drag it in just like this and click on upload. And now you can see that plugin has been added over here. It is made up of a command, which will start the setup process for you, as well as a few skills. And again, I will show you how all this works in just a minute. But let's actually initiate this command to get set up with your folder system. To do that, let's navigate back by hovering over the back arrow on the top left and clicking on it, and then make sure you're inside of Cowork. Now you need to create your parent folder. This is the folder that is going to contain all your different projects for Cowork OS. Again, remember, each individual folder should be treated as a separate project, but you need one folder that contains all of those projects. So click where it says work in a folder and scroll all the way down and select choose a different folder. You'll notice down here, there's a choice for a new folder. That is what we're going to select, but you want to make sure it is somewhere safe that's easily accessible. I'm going to put it in my iCloud drive. That way, this is always backed up, and if I switch computers, I'll also be able to access those files as well. So I'll click New Folder once I'm inside my iCloud drive. Here, I will call this one Cowork OS, but you can give it whatever name you want. And then I'll click on Create. Right now, there is nothing inside my new Cowork OS folder, and that's okay because Cowork is going to build this out for you. Click on Open, and I will click on Always Allow. So now you should see the correct folder selected right here, and we are going to initiate the Cowork OS plugin by using the command for it. To use any command, type in / and type in the name of the command, which in this case is the word begin. You'll see this pop up right here, select it. And then you also want to make sure you have the right model selected. Now, there are 3 models, Haiku, Sonnet, and Opus. Opus is the most capable, but it's going to burn through your usage much faster. I personally almost always use Sonnet just because it is a good balance of efficiency and not burning through my credits too quickly. So I'll select that one, and then I will select Let's Go. Now, what's happening is Cowork is looking at that plugin and it's beginning the process of setting up your folder system for you. To do that though, it needs to ask you some questions. And here you can see those questions will pop up. So you can just answer these one by one. The first thing it says is, what do you want to call your cowork? I just want to call it Claude, but if you want to call it something else, you can just type in what name you want to give your coworker, and then it will always be referred to as that name. I'm just going to select Claude though. Next is asking what kind of assistant you want Cowork OS to be, like sort of its personality. I want it to adapt to the tasks, but otherwise I want it to be pretty friendly and encouraging, so I'll select both of those choices. Next, it says, what's your name and what keeps you busiest day to day? So I'll say my name is Paul and I have way too many emails. I also make YouTube videos about AI, so need help with that. So you're basically telling Cowork OS who you are and what you need help with. Now, based on that response, Cowork OS will ask some more in-depth questions about what's draining your time the most. You can select what applies to you. And by the way, at any point, if you're just kind of getting frustrated and you want to move through this faster, you can certainly skip it. However, I do suggest you actually go through this process because it's going to set things up the right way for you and get you the best results. So for me, I'm going to select research because that takes me the most time, and repetitive busy work. Next is asking how it can help you. I think it would be very helpful to have help with my emails, like triage and drafting replies, and certainly researching trending AI topics for YouTube. Now it wants to know what apps and tools I use. So I'll say Gmail, Notion, YouTube Studio, Barumi for editing videos and recording them, and Claude and Gemini, especially for images. There we go. Next, it wants to know how you like your responses. Generally, I like them pretty short and direct, so I'll select that one. And the last question is pretty broad. Is there anything else you want Cowork OS to keep in mind about you, the way you work, things you hate, anything? For now, I'll just say no. We can always update this later. Now Cowork is creating for you your personal preferences. So scrolling through this, we can see everything that we just discovered during that interview process is being put into this document right here. Once it's done, you want to select this button right here that says copy, and then we'll come into our Claude settings. Click down here on the bottom left where it says your name and click on settings. And here you have a choice to make. Here inside general settings, there's a box called personal preferences. These are preferences that Claude will consider every time it responds to you, whether you're in chat or you're in Cowork. So think of it as a universal set of preferences and instructions. I suggest that you paste in what you just copied into this box. If you already had something in here when you started using Cowork OS, then Cowork OS actually considered that information when setting up your personal preferences. So it will combine both the old information and the new information. Then you can scroll down to the bottom and click on Save Changes. However, if for some reason you don't want all this information to be used when you use the regular Claude and only want it to be used when you're actually using Cowork, then instead of pasting that in here, you can click on the left here where it says Cowork, click on Edit next to Global Instructions, and paste it in here as well. For purposes of Cowork, that should act exactly the same, but then all that information isn't also being used for chat. And the idea behind this is that this is all information that you would want Claude to know about you, no matter how you're using it. In every single conversation you have in chat, and for every single task you have it doing for you in Cowork. So you might as well put it in here so it always has that context. Now, we are almost finished with setting up the folder structure. So let's come back to the tasks. If you click over here on the left where it shows your recents, you should see the task up here at the top. Click on that, and here we're back in our task. Down here, I'll select that I've pasted it in, and now it's actually building out the workspace for us. So based on the interview questions, it will then ask you what folder you want to set up first. So for myself, I want to set up a YouTube Studio folder so I can organize all my different YouTube projects. So I selected that one, but it's going to be different for you because you answered differently with your questions. So notice what's happening now. It says, let me hand this off to the subfolder builder. And if we expand this menu, you'll see that it is running a skill. So when I had you install the Cowork OS plugin, one of the skills that was included in that plugin was a subfolder creation skill. And you see right here, that is automatically being run. It says the subfolder skill has been loaded. So that is how a skill works. You can either tell Cowork, hey, I want you to use the subfolder skill, or on its own, it's going to realize when you ask it to create a subfolder for you, it should run that skill. And that's exactly what it's doing right now. And as part of that skill, it's asking a few questions. It wants to know the name of the folder, which it already has. And then it says, are there specific tools, files, or contexts I should know for this folder? Like how you plan to use it and what your typical sessions in here look like. So I'm just going to describe how I'm going to use this YouTube folder. So here's what I came up with. The folder will contain subfolders for each YouTube video I'm working on. The first one is called How to Automate Your Entire Life Using Claude Cowork. And I'm also working on another one called How to Build a Chrome Extension with Claude Cowork. Each folder needs a research file and a script file. I also want a folder for YouTube Analytics where I'll add analytics for my YouTube channel. What I could also put in here are any tools that I work with. So I could say I also keep a content calendar on Google Calendar, and that way it knows to actually search Google Calendar for anything that's on my content schedule at that moment. But once I'm happy with all of that, I will click on Submit. And finally, it will ask you if it should show up differently inside this folder. Let me explain what that means. So here I'm inside one of my Cowork OS folders. Again, this is like the parent folder that contains everything. And this folder, we gave it a personality when we set up Cowork OS. But if you want, within each of these different project folders, you can have it show up differently. So when I'm having it help me with YouTube videos, I certainly want it to act a little bit more like a YouTube strategist. So I'll actually select Act as a YouTube content strategist, but you can put in whatever you want. That way, each project folder is tailored in a way to be able to help you as much as possible. Now, if you've never used Cowork before, then I want you to look on the top right here. This is where Cowork actually builds out for itself a checklist of everything that it needs to do to accomplish your task. Right now, you see that there are 3 tasks. And as it goes along, it will actually check things off the to-do list itself. So now it says it's done. Let's actually look at what it created. So opening back up my new Cowork OS folder, you'll notice that there are things in here that were in here before. So first of all, we have a file called Claude MD. This is always going to be created. These are the instructions for this folder. Now, in this case, this folder is everything inside of Cowork OS. So this is going to tell Claude Cowork how to act when it's using Cowork OS. Opening this up, you can actually read through what these instructions are. The second file in here is called memory. This is a little memory system that I put together for Cowork OS, since Cowork itself doesn't actually have memory built in, and I'll show you how this works in a second. And then we have the new subfolder that was created called YouTube Studio. Opening up this one, you'll notice that there's also a Claude MD file and a memory file in here as well. Part of Cowork OS is that anytime a subfolder is created, it will automatically create a new Claude MD file and a new memory file. That way, there is memory for each of your different projects, and there is a set of instructions for each of your different projects. And then within this folder, we have each of the 2 videos I'm working on and my YouTube Analytics folder. And opening up those, you'll see we have a research folder and a research file, I should say, and a script file as well. So now, no matter what folder I'm working inside of, Cowork is going to know exactly what to do because it has its own set of instructions and its own memory for each project. But this is just the framework. To get the most out of Cowork OS, you want to make sure that the instructions for each project folder are set up correctly to help you out, and you build out skills as well to actually be able to use for your projects. And all of that's very easy because you can use Cowork to do it. Let me show you an example. So I'm going to start a new task. If you didn't know, Cowork, instead of calling them chats, they call them tasks. So I'll select new tasks. And let's say that I want to tell Cowork how to actually help me create all of my different YouTube scripts for my YouTube videos. Right here, you see we have selected the Cowork OS parent folder. But because we're only going to be talking about YouTube videos with Cowork, I'm going to select the YouTube folder. As much as possible, you want to get as specific as possible with the folder that you're working inside of. It's going to be a lot more efficient and effective for your results. So I don't need Cowork to know everything that's inside my Cowork OS in order to help me with my YouTube videos. I only needed to know the information inside that YouTube folder. So I'm going to select that YouTube folder instead. Great. So the first thing I want to do is tell it some more information about how I make YouTube videos. So I'm going to tell it I use a Sony ZV-1 to record videos. And then I'll submit that. And notice it says, good to know. Want me to save that memory so you have it on file for future sessions? And I'll say yes. So what it's doing now is it's actually activating the memory skill that is built in to the Cowork OS plugin. You can see that over here on the right under skills, it's using memory create. So this is why I said skills are not complicated. You just plug it into Claude's brain and it will usually automatically run them when necessary. I didn't need to say use the memory skill, it just did it. But let's say I decide, or I switch cameras, so I'm using something new now. So now I'll tell it, actually forget that because now I use a Canon camera. And there it just edited that file, the memory, and updated it with the new camera. So if we come over to the file, so here inside the YouTube folder, if we open up memory, you'll see it says Paul records videos with a Canon camera. So memory is as easy as that. As you're chatting, if it hears something significant, it may ask you if you want it to remember it. Or if you want it to, just tell it, hey, remember that, or change that, or delete that, and it's just gonna do it for you. It's that simple. What I suggest you do now is start using Cowork. Actually come in here and ask it to create things for you. That's exactly what I did. I asked it to create a script for me for a YouTube video that I'm working on. After a bit of back and forth to really make sure I get this script the right way, here's what it came up with, and I absolutely love it. Now this brings me to another key component of the Cowork OS system, which are skills. Because now that we've done this once and we got Cowork to make exactly what we want, we never want to have to repeat this process or the instructions over again. Well, all I have to tell it is something like this. This was fantastic. Create a skill now so you can do it the same way every time from now on. So after a little bit of back and forth, it actually created this skill for me. So you can see over here on the right, it actually loads the skill creator skill, which is a little meta, but it uses that to actually build out your new skill. And as part of this process, it also tests it as well to make sure it works. So that's what it did right here. It did its little testing and then had the results, asked me if I want to proceed with making the skill. I said yes, and then it put together the skill, and all you have to do is click where it says copy to your skills. That has now been added. And so now, from now on, anytime I needed to write a script, I just say, hey, write a script for me. It'll automatically load that skill and do it the exact same way every time. Before I show you some actual use cases that I've been using Cowork OS for, let's hear from today's sponsor, i10x. i10x is an all-in-one platform that gives you access to all the major models. When you come into the chat, you're not limited to just the models that are created by one company. We have ChatGPT in here, Gemini, Grok, Claude, and DeepSeek. If you're not sure which model to use, just leave it on auto and it will automatically select the right model, or come into Chat Arena. This allows you to choose two different models like GPT-5 Mini and Grok 4.1 Fast, enter in one prompt, and get a response from both of them to see which response you like better. In addition to that, there are some advanced features in here, like the ability to connect to third-party services, and even memory built in and web search. If you need to create images, they have image generation as well, using OpenAI models, Google models, and Flux's models. And if you need videos, that's covered as well. Again, all the top models in here available for you to choose between. But now they have a brand new feature called automations. Automations allow you to set up workflows that connect all your favorite apps. So for instance, here, anytime I upload something to Google Drive, A i10x agent will analyze it and determine if it's a note that needs to be sent to Notion or if it's a video that needs to be uploaded to YouTube. i10x starts at just $8 a month if you go with annual billing, or $10 a month if you pay month to month. That includes 5,000 uses of basic models and 200 uses of advanced models. But if you want unlimited usage of both the basic and the advanced models, you can get that for just $25 a month for monthly billing, or $17.50 a month if you pay for the annual billing upfront. If you want to sign up, I'll have a link for i10x in the description down below, along with a coupon code to get an additional discount. And thank you, i10x, for sponsoring this video. All right, so let's actually put this to work, and I'll show you some real use cases for this. So I'm going to return back to my parent folder, which is Cowork OS, and I'm going to tell it, put together a productivity subfolder for me. I will use it to track my tasks. That is going to load the subfolder skill and begin to set it up. Once the folder system is set up, just tell it now inside the folder use, and then do /. That will bring up this menu. Hover over plugins, then hover over productivity, and click on start and submit that. And so that will then use the productivity command inside the productivity plugin to actually build out your productivity system for you. Once it's done, you'll be able to open up your file. You'll find the productivity folder, open that up, and you'll see a new file in here called dashboard.html. If you open that up, you'll see this dashboard right here. Click on this button and then come back into your productivity folder and select tasks.md and click on open again. And then here you have an entire task management app that was built for you. And so you can tell Claude as you're going along what tasks you have. It will automatically add them in here, or you can add them yourself. So I can say like record YouTube video. I can add a note to this, a subtask, or move it along here however I want. And at any point, you can ask Claude Cowork to make you a dashboard like this. It's not limited to just productivity. So let's say you deal with a lot of analytics. You can put all those analytics into a folder, point Claude to that folder and say, hey, create an HTML dashboard for me. And it will make something that you can access just like this that is tailored to all the information inside that folder. Here's another example. I returned back again to the parent folder, Cowork OS, and I'm asking it to create a subfolder for me for handling emails. I wanted to create sort of a mini CRM that tracks all of my most popular contacts, as well as a file that has my brand voice that determines how I like to respond to emails. And to get that information, I'm telling Claude Cowork to actually look through the past 2 weeks of emails inside my Gmail account. And now that it's finished, you can see I have a new folder here called Email Vault. Inside of here, I have brand voice and a contacts folder, which is full of all of my most commonly contacted contacts. So what can you do with this? Well, check this out. I'll now come into Cowork and I will select my new folder, which is Email Vault. There we go. And I will tell it, look at all the emails in my inbox, suggest what I should do with them, delete, archive, block, or reply. And if it needs a reply, draft one in Gmail for me. And then it's going to go out and actually do that for me in my tone of voice. And it's not going to give me the replies here in the chat. It's actually going to draft the replies inside Gmail itself. So I can just send them right from Gmail. I don't have to copy from Cowork, paste it into Gmail, and then send it out. All right, so I'm happy with these results. So what am I going to do? I'm going to turn this into a skill. I'm going to say, perfect, now turn this into a skill. And then it actually builds out the skill for you. Over here on the right, you can read through the skill and see exactly what it does. So if there's anything wrong in here, you can ask it to make those changes before it's finished. And once it's perfect, click right here where it says copy to your skills. And now you can access that skill whenever you want. You never have to repeat these instructions ever again. But the way it's set up right now, to activate the skill, you actually have to come into the chat and activate it. That is, of course, unless you turn on a scheduled task. So what I'm going to do is just simply tell Cowork, now run this every day at 6 a.m. for me. And here's asking me to verify that that's what I want to do. I'll click on schedule. And now we have our first scheduled task. Coming over on the left, click on scheduled. And this is where you can see all your scheduled tasks. If you want to create a new one, You can do that from here, but personally, I like just creating them from within one of the chats. And if you need to delete them or disable any of them, you can just click on it and delete it or edit it. Now, originally at the start of the video, I told you that there are 3 components to Cowork OS: the folder structure, connectors, and skills. But there's actually a 4th one, and that is schedule tasks. Because with these activated, Cowork can really become a 24/7 assistant that does work for you even while you're sleeping. However, I did leave it off the original list because it is slightly more advanced. In order for schedule tasks to actually work, your computer needs to be on and Cowork needs to be open. Now, personally, I get so much value out of this that it is worth it for me to have a second computer that's on 24/7 with Cowork open. But you need to make that decision for yourself. And I have one final tip for you. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but it's definitely worth mentioning. Right now, this is your filing system, and it works fine, but it may not be the most user-friendly. If you want to actually interact with your files, you can use Claude Cowork, or you can open any of them up and make edits yourself, but it's not as user-friendly as something like Notion, for instance. So to fix that, you want to download an app called Obsidian. If you point Obsidian to your Claude Cowork folder, it will create an experience like this, where you actually are able to see the folder names. Like, here's one called Email Executor, here's my productivity one, here's my YouTube one, and you can see all the text files, all the markdown files that are inside those folders. So here's my instructions for Claude. I open this up, and here are the instructions for Claude for my email folder, and I can make any changes that I want directly inside of here. And it's the same thing as opening up the file itself and making the changes and then saving it. So it's a much better experience and a lot nicer of a user interface. So that's the structure for how to use Cowork OS to automate your life. But the big takeaway is this: the setup is what makes it powerful. If you set up your folders, your instructions, and then you layer on the connectors and skills, Cowork stops feeling like a chatbot and starts feeling more like an actual assistant. But to get the most out of it, you actually have to use it. So here's my challenge for you. Over the next couple of weeks, anytime you have a new task that you're going to do yourself, challenge yourself to try to have Cowork do it for you. You may not know what to ask at first, but just try. Just tell it what you're doing and see if it can actually accomplish it for you. And if it does, turn it into a skill and then turn it into a scheduled task. And that's how you get the most out of Cowork. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know in the comment section down below. I still read and respond personally to every single comment myself. So if you appreciate this video, the best thing that you can do is just leave a comment and let me know. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel because very soon I'm going to be releasing a video talking about how I made a Chrome extension that already has over 5,000 downloads using Claude Cowork. So if you don't want to miss out on that, make sure to subscribe and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.